If you have a question for Al Moria related to the theme, the victory of freedom is within you, feel free to ask it, and we'll see what he has to share. If there's no questions, he'll just discourse. So
my question is about how when something is within you and you feel like you like to say it, but there's something that holds you back. And I was just getting the impression that because many of us have had past lives where it's been very hard, having been in concentration camps or some very painful situation, like you were reading from Gabriel Cabran about pain. If there's some pain that's still within you and it holds you back, you have a suggestion.
Okay. So the pain doesn't hold you back. Your free will is always there to make a choice, to speak or not to speak. The pain is there as the pain. How you choose to react to the pain, or how you choose to react to others who provide that pain, if suffering does happen through other people sometimes, is your choice. And so the freedom to choose is yours. Every man, woman, and child has freedom. Now, some people are enslaved for a time and they don't have full freedom. They have certain freedoms. They can still think, they can still feel, they can still pray. They can, in silence, speak. So sometimes the words that we speak in silence are as powerful as the words that we speak in the outer world. Because who hears those words that we speak in silence? The divine world. And who do we desire to respond to our pleas, our requests, our needs, more than those in the divine world? They understand our soul, our spirit, and their response will be more profound in terms of its everlasting effects than necessarily seeking acceptance by adulation from people on earth, because who are we trying to impress? Or who are we trying to get through to? So that's one aspect of this. However, when you feel suppressed by authoritarian figures, tyrannical mindsets, etc., and you know that you're going to be stifled or even hurt again, then the tendency is not to speak, because it could end up in your death or whatever. And so some of these experiences from past lives make us vulnerable and feel like we're not free, and therefore we can't speak, we can't share what's inside of us. We will be lashed if we're a slave, or we'll be, if we fight back, we're just going to be lashed more, whatever. So what do you do in that case? Again, you pray, yet I was witnessed to a presentation recently by Fred Morsell about the life of Frederick Douglass, who was a slave and then eventually won his own freedom through help from another woman, and then he went through the Underground Railroad from Baltimore up to New York, and then he found his freedom. At one point when he was a slave, his slave master would whip him to shreds, and he got strong as a young man at a certain point, and at one point he wrestled with the slave master and hurt the slave master, and even though he still got beaten later because two other men came and subdued him, that master never beat him again, because he knew that this slave who was strong could attack him at any time, and he didn't want that. So he stood up to the violence, the evil, the insanity. whether you stand up physically or whether you do it in a nonviolent way like Martin Luther and Gandhi did, the choice is yours based on the situation. Yet, at times you have to affirm who you are, you have to speak your truth, you have to shout into the teeth of enmity and darkness and evil and violence, because it may overwhelm and continue to create darkness. There is a time for resistance and there is a time for non-resistance. And you have to discern through the agency of the Holy Spirit what is appropriate given all of the parameters at that moment and that time. Yet even if you can't speak or act outwardly, you can speak and act inwardly. And this is the power of the son or daughter of God who is using his or her free will choice to think, to feel, and to emanate. And it may be that to emanate love and compassion even toward the evildoer will transform that one faster than emanating hatred or resistance or reactivity. We never know, necessarily. Yet it takes a saintly person to be able to be compassionate in the face of evil. To have the victory of freedom is a determined choice. And the determination and the affirmation of self within that determination is crucial to the victory. The timing of it, the place of it, how you do it, the Holy Spirit can help you with, because discerning what will not cause more pain, more anguish, more sorrow is always excellent. However, look at what Jesus did. He made the ultimate sacrifice. He laid down his life, and thousands and millions and billions have been saved through his choice and his example and his sacrifice. So, if you have to lay down your life, you know that you're an immortal being, spirit, and you're going to come back, and many of us have done that in past lives. I had the experience, I may have shared this before, where I had a soul memory come up where I was cowering in jail waiting for my execution and beheading because I had spoken against the evils of some dictator or some power that was not right. It was unjust. And I was cowering in jail, and I knew that they were going to come soon and behead me, and lo and behold, they did. And they lopped off my head, and yet my spirit was still alive. I was dead in the flesh, but I was alive in spirit. And so, from that point, I realized there is no death. There is no death. So when you fear to speak, fear is a precursor to death. You know, doubt, fear, human questioning, records of death. So what you fear can come upon you, so you have to overcome that fear through understanding with Jesus. And then once you understand that there is no death and that fear doesn't really serve you, in the face of any challenge, you can move forward victorious in freedom by your spirit, one with God. Now, it sounds intellectually easier than when you're there in the throes of the experience, and then all the emotionalism, all the intensity of the pain is there, yet God is always there too. And realize that in your pain, in your sorrow, the angels are there. I can tell you that you've been comforted more than you know in your pain and your suffering. And when many people prepare to go through the transition of death, let's say they're in a car accident, very often it actually is the dynamic where they do not feel anything. Their souls, their spirits actually leave the body very quickly, and the incident happens so quickly that the mercy of God is there where the person does not experience pain. This is, for many light bearers. Now, some do, and they do have to suffer to mitigate karma. Yet, in many, many cases, there is the miracle of mercy manifest where their soul or their spirit leaves the body, even though the body is still in the process of going through death, and so they don't actually experience it as emotionally. They're detached from that whole experience. We can learn to be detached even from our body and pain if we choose to allow God to have this manifest, if we really don't desire to experience that pain. But that takes some mastery, and it takes belief, faith, and acceptance that that's even possible. Now, what I heard in your voice, Kathleen, is the trembling of the sorrow of a past life experience. So we are all going to enfold you now in love and go into that record to dissolve it so that you never have fear of speaking out. You never have any more pain of the memory of that experience. And we love you. Let's say it. We love you. We love you. We love you. And the alchemy of the transmutation of this record is manifest so that you never have to go there again. You never have to go there. And we all champion you, Kathleen, speaking up, speaking your peace, speaking your truth, speaking your wisdom. And you did receive in your soul-raising session that was very private some keys for how to do this that will serve you very, very well. And just remember those, because for many of us, it's not necessarily what we say, it's what's behind it and within it and how we communicate that is always the initiation, right? It's like we desire to get our point across, and the mastery of how we communicate is so crucial so that people truly understand us. And one thing you can do, we can all do, is pray for people with whom we may have opportunities for better communication, for them to really understand us, to honor us, respect us, and actually understand who we are and to know us as we know ourselves, to know us more like we know ourselves. When we can have this common respect and reverence where people can actually really know us and our higher self, that dissolves all kinds of dramas and lesser situations. So let's say it again. We love you, Kathleen, 3 times. We love you, Kathleen. We love you, Kathleen. We love you, Kathleen. Now, always come back and feel that love of everyone in this room and all those on the broadcast, and know that this is genuine, it's real, it's authentic. It's not just because David said or El Moria said to say it. We authentically feel this for you, and we support you, we cherish you, and we defend you. Amen. Amen. Okay, thanks for the question. That was great. Thanks, El Moria. Okay, anybody else? Robert Beasley's coming up. The other half.
And it's Kathleen with a C, of course.
With a C for what?
C for Kathleen.
Oh, of course. Okay, the course. Okay.
Of course. Well, Beloved El Moria, I believe you've answered my question in partial. And I'm aware, at least I got a hunch, that I've had some really traumatic experiences in previous lives, and there have been so many wars upon this planet, which I studied history, and there's a lot of those. And that's probably every person in this room has experienced a trauma, and the trauma. I was reading somewhere just recently about how the outer experience is over, And in your outer consciousness, oh, that's done with, whether it was this embodiment or another embodiment. But the subconscious is still running. The program is still there, and the subconscious thinks it is still occurring. And so it comes out and manifests in different ways in your outer awareness and your experience. You say, well, what's going on? What's the cause of this? So anyway, we've been given a toolbox by our teachers and ascended masters, and I just was going to ask for a little insight on this and what might be some of the best tools to use to stop the program of the subconscious running with this whole thing, whether it's from this embodiment or from 2,000 years ago.
Okay. Well, we know that certain sponsored hypnotherapists have been able to access these past records, and when they bring them out to people, there's the magic of the fact that now you know the source or the cause of it. It's like the physical problem in the current body just goes away. It's like it's transmuted, and so that's an interesting dynamic. The understanding of why and how the origins of issues manifest is very helpful. I've had many, many soul-raising sessions where the masters have explained that actually the person is going through a crisis or a situation, that heaven has already interceded and mitigated mercifully the karma that you could have had based on what you did in a past life, that if you knew what the karma could have been, and now maybe you went through some problem or issue or hurt or pain, but karma would have dictated that you would have died or been crippled for the rest of your life or whatever, and now you have a temporary problem and a pain in your arm, and it's a lot less than being crippled for the rest of your life because you've done so much spiritual work that now the mercy of God came into action, and yeah, you have some pain, but it's nothing like it could have been or would have been, right? Could have been, should have been, would have been. Those are three brothers that, we're going to get rid of. Like the Three Stooges, So the Three Stooges are really could have been, would have been, and should have been. So, how do we resolve the subconscious? That's the big question. We pour a violet flame into our being. And there's 4, in this prayer we gave just not too long ago, 6.002. The superconscious, the conscious, the unconscious, and the subconscious, right? Superconscious relates to the etheric body, conscious to the mental body, subconscious to the emotional, and unconscious to the physical. So the subconscious, we're dealing with the emotional body. What's under the surface, that's like you said, there's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic, right? And one of them is just recording everything. So all of our past lives are recorded, and this is what hypnotism can tune into, but also those who read the Akashic Records. So it's all there, and will the recording ever really stop? No, because it'll stop when we're out of time, right? When we're no longer in time as we know it. When we're in our supernal light body, there's no more time and space as we experience it here. We're timeless. We're in the origin of beingness. We're in beingness and permanency. And so we're not creating drama or karma anymore. And the subconscious is actually completely gone. The subconscious is no more. That's like the astral ka that's dissolved when you ascend. All the subconscious stuff that's sub is gone. Now there is still a recording in the Book of Life, but it's no longer subconscious. It's all evident. Yet to get rid of the patterns that are there that influence us today, I think that's really part of your desire, right? To transmute the patterns and the engrams that are embedded in our subconscious that we haven't mastered. The violet flame is the greatest divine weapon. if you like to use that term, or tool, resource, to transmute all those patterns, engrams, and blockages. The violet flame. We know this. It's Saint Germain's teaching. Now, to accelerate it, we give God the authority to deal with us as efficiently and effectively as we can, so that the subconscious is consumed and the astral plane is no more. The astral plane, hell, is no more. You know, in the Bible, in Revelation, it talks about when there will be the consuming of all that entire environment, of basically the subconscious Maya illusion. All that is burned up and no more. And then we just have light. So you have to give God the authority to burn through all the negative engrams, blockages, and patterns, and to transmute them into positive engrams and patterns of light. So the key that I'm seeing from El Morya is you just flip a coin and you got heads or tails, right? And you imagine all the darkness was on the bottom part of the coin, because it's subconscious. It's hidden there, like under the earth. You're going to temporarily just flip that coin, and then the darkness is now exposed to the light from the source, from heaven, from the sun. And it blazes through all those negative patterns, belief systems, paradigms, etc., and just burns them up, anything that's negative. And then you're done. It just, the light of the sun, the light of the presence, the light of the Christ, just burns through all that stuff. And now you have and fired on that side of the coin all the positive, beautiful thought forms, engrams, patterns that you desire to use in your new Christic life, to bless life, to help others, to move forward on your path. Now, it seems simplistic, yet if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can say to the mountain, move, and it'll be moved. If you have faith like that, anything is possible. And you just have to believe and give God the authority to transmute all this negativity, all this stuff. And then, as we said earlier today, never revisit it. Don't dredge it up again by activating the memory. Even the memory becomes transmuted. Cause, effect, record, and memory. The last to go is the memory, because we still hold on to our memories. So if you really desire to get rid of the subconscious, cause, effect, record, the record, and the memory of it. Now the question I have for the masters that relates to this is, okay, so does that mean when you ascend, all of the negative things you've done in the past lives are transmuted? And are they blotted out from the book of life? Because the Revelation talks about things being blotted out of the book of life. And I think the answer is yes. And it's an interesting conundrum, because I don't think ascended masters go back and revisit their path on lives on earth to think about the negative things. They're in a new state of consciousness that's purely divine, one with God, and God doesn't see impurity. So if God doesn't see the impurity, we have to become one with God for that impurity to be gone. First in our thought and our acceptance that we are divine, and then allow that process of transmutation, like the flipping of the coin, to occur, so that all the subconscious stuff, the shadow self, is just illumined by light. And then the shadow doesn't really exist anymore. Now, some people say, love your shadow, and I like that teaching too. It's not like you're trying to destroy your shadow, your dark self. You just illumine it with love and accept it into its realization that it's just a pattern that no longer serves you, and you've risen beyond it. Now, the Ho'oponopono is one of the most powerful tools to transmute the shadow and the subconscious. If we really study and read that book, Zero Limits, if we really use the faculties given to us by God of our higher mindfulness to make it so, like John Picard says, make it so. We have to believe and accept that it can be made so. If we still feel the impulse of attachment to those subconscious patterns, those attachments and the Mayic field of illusion will draw us back there, and then we're going to recreate it. While we're still evolving in time and space on the earth, we may not be able to completely feel the complete dissolution of them because we're still embodied. When we're ascended, I can assure you, you'll feel that they're gone. Now, the closer we can get to that feeling of the ascension and that we are one with God, the lighter you'll feel and the less you'll be influenced by any leftover subconscious patterns. The higher we go, the less ballast we have, and so you won't be influenced by them even though they may be there until they're completely burned up. So the key is not to dwell on it. Don't dwell on it. Don't recreate it. Don't bring it back to yourself. And so your question partly was, well, this is a historical record from past lives. But Robert, you're at the point where you're very close to your ascension now anyway. And so I wouldn't go there. What El Morya would rather have us do is start creating our new history, projecting into the future beyond this life into the future within the eternal now of our ascended mastership, when we're already beginning our work in the higher octaves, and focus on that rather than focusing on the past. It's like Eckhart Tolle's teaching, don't deal with the past. Be in the eternal now. And we are creating the beautiful future of our divine selfhood even now. So the more you focus on the superconscious self, that has a direct corresponding relationship to the astral or the subconscious, and the superconscious will give you the superpower, the divine power to transmute this subconscious. So dwell in your superconscious divine selfhood because it has a direct correlation to spinning all of this darkness and these engrams out of existence. And that's the alchemy. That's the final word on this. And the answer, I think, is focus on the superconscious. So start creating with mindfulness who you are as an ascended being, and start cogitating and ruminating on the glorious worlds that you'll be living in Elysia, and all the things I said yesterday. And I forgot one of them that I remembered later. Besides Shambhala, Shangri-La, Eden, Elysia, Utopia.
Leucadia.
What's that?
Leucadia.
Leucadia. And also in the center of the earth, there's Agartha. Yeah. So all of these. Just focus on that. Because what we place our attention upon, we become. So it's always a choice. Are we focusing on the shadow self, the subconscious? Or are we focusing on the superconscious, our divine self? That's really the answer. I see your divinity. I see your holiness. I see your perfection. I see all the good that you've done. And if I can see it, we can all see it, and you can see it and behold it. And then, so what about the shadow world? So what about the subconscious? We don't give it any more thought, energy, focus. It just starts dissolving because we're not focused there.